Magic mushrooms found to cure depression in one treatment, no wonder they are illegal. What did I just say? Magic mushrooms proven to cure depression in just one treatment. Big Pharma hates this. Magic mushrooms enlighten the brain, and improve psychiatric conditions. Researchers at Imperial College London recently went to great lengths to obtain psilocybin and use it in clinical tests to investigate its medicinal value for treating severe depression. It took 32 months for the research team to meet all the licensing requirements to even conduct the trial. They also commented that the price per dose was literally 50 times more than what it should have cost in a sane world. 12 participants with severe depression signed up to receive high doses of the banned psilocybin. They were given capsules orally and monitored closely. The medicinal properties of psilocybin were quickly realized. In just 1 week, all the participants were free of depression and self-loathing. After 3 months, there were no lingering symptoms of depression whatsoever for 5 of the participants. The Beckley Foundation's Amanda Feeling participated in the research, and praised the study. For the first time in many years, people who were at the end of the road with currently available treatments reported decreased anxiety, increased optimism and an ability to enjoy things. This is an unparalleled success and could revolutionize the treatment of depression, she said. Magic mushrooms are an impressive depression treatment, but they're banned by governments around the world. Even though magic mushrooms continue to prove powerful in healing severe depression, governments around the world have made them illegal. Over 200 species of mushrooms contain the psychedelic substance psilocybin. Governments continue to prove themselves good at separating us from one another, removing us from nature, and tearing us away from all that we are. We can look to skyrocketing incarceration numbers as evidence of our separation from one another. We can look to all the violence initiated by government cartels, as they bust down doors and take innocent lives in search of illegal plants. We can look to all of government's abuses and see how it has always been about trying to control one another and place restrictions on our natural rights as human beings. Are magic mushrooms the future treatment for severe depression? Psilocybin provides lasting relief from depression because it works its way into receptors in the brain, disrupting something called the default mode network. This area in the brain is measurably overreactive, and people who are depressed. Psilocybin literally changes how people view themselves and their relationships with the rest of the world. It has been known to elicit a spiritual awakening in some people, giving them an entirely new perspective on what it means to be alive. Still, Dr. Robin Carhart-Harris, from Imperial College London, doesn't want people going around picking magic mushrooms to treat their own depression. This might even cause people to fabricate depression so that they can find a reason to eat magic mushrooms. This could cause a cycle of psychological dependence. While magic mushrooms are not chemically addictive, they can easily elicit psychological dependence, and not everyone has reported pleasant experiences. As the research team seeks funding from the Medical Research Council to conduct further tests, they do reason that it will be extremely hard to set up placebo trial studies because it will be nearly impossible to disguise any differences between a psilocybin trip and something that's inert. Dr. Robin Carhart-Harris noted, "Psychedelic drugs have potent psychological effects and are only given in our research when appropriate safeguards are in place, such as careful screening and professional therapeutic support. Since SSRI pharmaceutical antidepressant pills cause sleeping problems, weight gain and suicidal thoughts, magic mushrooms are just waiting to be explored as natural treatments for severe depression." With 350 million people affected by severe depression worldwide, and with pharmaceutical approaches currently not working, the resurrection of magic mushrooms as psychological and spiritual healing has never been more important. The 1960s saw the height of psychedelia, a subculture that embraces the use of psychedelic drugs. And while there were many instances in which Tom Wolfe's The Electric Kool-Aid acid test could paint a good picture of what it was like, colorful lights, lots of noise, and school buses full of people high on acid blasting the Grateful Dead. There were others looking into the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. A psychologist and user of psychedelics himself, Dr. Timothy Leary was one of these people. He spent a few short years at Harvard University working on the Harvard psilocybin project. He believed that psilocybin, the active chemical in magic mushrooms, had the power to change people's brains for the better. 50 years later, scientists are beginning to realize Leary may have been onto something. Psilocybin profoundly alters consciousness, rearranging the brain so that new connections between neurons are made, and accessing them becomes easier. This doesn't occur randomly, but instead, the neurons assume a new order, which brings clarity and new perspectives on old and new thoughts. Those effects are then combined with what scientists have found to be activation in the area of the brain, the hippocampus and anterior cingulate cortex, responsible for emotion and dreaming. People often describe taking psilocybin as producing a dreamlike state. Robin Carhart Harris, a researcher who studies psilocybin, told Reuters earlier this year. Meanwhile, with the activity in the emotion region of the brain working at full force, the area that helps us find a sense of self-awareness, the ego, goes quiet. These effects are gone within 5 to 10 hours, however, the enlightenment they bring is long-lasting. Studies have shown that the psilocybin in mushrooms may be an effective chemical for treating post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety. In a 2011 study, researchers enlisted 12 participants suffering from an advanced stage of cancer, and diagnosed with acute stress disorder or anxiety disorder. After giving them either a small dose of psilocybin, niacin, it induces a mild psychological reaction, or a placebo. They found that those who took psilocybin alleviated some stress, as measured by the STAR anxiety subscale. These effects were consistent up to 3 months after treatment. Smokers may also benefit from taking a magic mushroom here and there. In September, researchers from Johns Hopkins University found that 12 out of 15 smokers were able to quit while sitting in a room, tripping on psilocybin, and listening to calming music. Those whose experiences were the most profound were more likely quit, the researchers said. The rates of quitting were so high, twice as high as what you typically see with the gold standard medication, researcher Matthew Johnson told Bloomberg News. Science is only beginning to unravel the mysteries that surround drug users' treatment for psychiatric conditions. In the past few years, studies have shown that other drugs, like LSD and MDMA, also offer some benefit despite sitting next to marijuana and psilocybin on the list of Schedule I substances. Offering them to patients in a controlled manner, like the Johns Hopkins researchers did, could be a good way to procure benefit without risking the dangers associated with fully dosed drugs.